Hello friends and welcome to my channel. Day 8 of Spellbinder's 2024 Advent Calendar is a gorgeous die set. It includes everything you need to make a layered flower and a really beautiful vase. I created a slimline card so I could have multiple vases and flowers. And my flowers, yep, they're done up in rainbow colors. I started off by doing all of the die cutting. I also cut my card front, which is black cardstock measuring 3.5 by 8.5 inches. The card front is lined up on the grid of my work surface, and I'm using some low-tack tape and stretching it right across the bottom so I have a straight edge to line up my 5 vases. I'm just going to eyeball it to try to get the vases spaced out evenly. Once I'm finished moving them around a bit and I'm satisfied with how it's looking, then I'm going to take some adhesive and just attach the lower portion of the vase. The vases will be completely secured to the panel, but I'll have the flexibility of being able to play around with the stems and get them just at the right position and height that I want them. And I just knocked that last vase off so that I could position that one so that it was the same distance from the edge of the panel as the one on the other side. And then I'll just center the last 2 in between the vases. Next, I'll assemble the flower heads. The flower centers are made up of 3 die cuts. I just did them all in yellow, and then went ahead and put the largest die cut on first, and then the little cup followed by the oval die cut. The stems and leaves were cut from mint cardstock. I've cut 2 leaves per flower, and when you cut the stems, the die will do 2 at a time. Each stem is oriented in a different direction. So now I'm just going ahead and adhering the stems underneath the top of the vase. And again, I'm just eyeballing it and trying to get the stems between the 5 vases at more or less the same height. Next, I'll go ahead and lay out all of the flower heads in rainbow order and one of the leaves so that they sit on the end points of each of the stems. The elements are positioned so that they are over the panel's edge, and once they're laid out, then they can be adhered. I start from right to left because the flower is going to slightly overlap the leaf ahead of it. Now I can go back in and finish adhering the top of the vases to the card front. And then the rest of the leaves are attached so that they overlay the top right hand of the vases. And I'm just going to add a simple but large sentiment. I love this. It is called Friends. This is a 2-piece die set. The scripty word was used to cut mint cardstock and white sheet foam. The shadow die was used to cut vellum paper. I'm going to be creating a floating sentiment, so I'll be working with Tombow adhesive because when it dries, it is tacky and repositionable and works well with the vellum paper. I've applied it to both the back of the cardstock letters and the front of the foam letters. While the adhesive is drying, I'll go ahead and adhere my card front to a card base, which measures 3 3/4 by 8 3/4 inches. This adhesive takes about 10 minutes to dry completely, and you know because it'll turn translucent. So now I can go ahead and safely adhere the cardstock letters to the vellum shadow die cut. If I were to use wet adhesive, the vellum would ripple. I love that this adhesive is repositionable when it is dry. It gives lots of flexibility for getting your sentiment on straight. And as you can see, I was able to lift up that one section and reposition it, and no adhesive residue was left on the vellum. And now that the cardstock sentiment is in place, the vellum shadow is going to be sandwiched between this sentiment and the foam one. Just a reminder, the Tombow adhesive for the foam die cuts was placed on the top of the letters. So this is very, very easy to align these die cuts to the cardstock ones that are sitting on top of the vellum. As you can see, the vellum is very translucent. Repositionable nature of this adhesive when it is dry adds an additional safety net for getting everything aligned. To adhere the sentiment to the card front, I'll go back to my regular adhesive, applying it to the back of the foam letters. And it is simply centered across the vases, and doesn't that look cool? You can see the background peeking through the vellum. And I'll finish up by embellishing the card with some white sparkly discs. These are quite subtle, but they add a nice touch of sparkle to the card. And there you go, a sweet rainbow slimline card featuring Spellbinder's Day 8 of the 2024 Advent Calendar. Thank you for stopping by. I hope to see you for Day 9, and as always, I appreciate your visit.